Welcome back. Take a deep breath. Let your shoulders relax. You don't need to do anything right now except drift. Drift back. Back several thousand years. Before clocks. Before calendars. Before alarm bells and deadlines and dates on your phone. We are traveling now to a world made of mud. Soft, sun-baked mud. To a land between two rivers. The Euphrates and the Tigris. A land called Sumer. You may never have heard of it. And yet, this is where something quietly extraordinary happened. A story not of kings and battles, but of scribes and farmers, and the slow, steady ticking of a calendar being born. Let us begin. In a quiet village, not far from the river. It is the year 2900 BCE. Though, of course, the villagers don't call it that. They don't yet have a calendar. Not quite. But they are beginning to notice things. The air is warm. It smells of clay and river reed. Frogs croak gently from the marshes. And in the distance, smoke curls from the roofs of flat-topped homes made of packed earth. A scribe sits cross-legged, balancing a wet tablet of clay on his lap. His name is lost to us now. But we can imagine him, a thin man, wrapped in linen, reed stylus in hand, tongue slightly poking from the corner of his mouth as he concentrates. He is not writing poetry. He is not carving laws. He is counting goats. 32 goats. 2 missing. 1 possibly eaten by a lion. He sighs. His job is to record who owns what. What was given. What was lost. And when. But how to record when something happened. He looks up. The sun is sinking. The moon will rise soon, pale, watchful, comforting. He's noticed something. The moon comes back. Full. About every 29 days. He doesn't have the word month yet. But he has an idea. Across Sumer, this quiet noticing is happening. Priests in temple towers. Farmers in the fields. Merchants at the river ports. All looking to the sky. Because they are tied to rhythms, the rise and fall of the river. The planting and harvesting of barley. The timing of taxes. And the moods of the gods. The gods, you see, are picky. They want offerings on the right day. Not too soon? Not too late? And so, slowly, gently, the idea begins to grow. Time might be a thing we can name. A thing we can count. Maybe even plan. Let's pause here. Imagine yourself lying on a rooftop in ancient Sumer. It's night. The stars above are glittering, sharp and clear in the dry air. A river gurgles somewhere below. And the city murmurs around you, soft voices, the distant thump of a drum. You're just a person. Maybe a trader, maybe a baker. You don't know that you're living at the dawn of timekeeping. But you know that yesterday, the moon was fuller. And tomorrow, it will shrink. And in about 29 nights, it will swell again. This cycle comforts you. It tells you the barley is almost ripe. It tells you the festival of Enlil is near. It tells you time is moving. And so the Sumerians begin carving moon cycles into clay. Each mark stands for a day. 29 marks. A full cycle. This, they think, could work. This could be a way to track the invisible. The calendar begins not with celebration, but with record keeping. Sumerians love to organize. They catalogue sheep, and jars of oil, and loaves of bread, and temple offerings. But the real challenge is, when was this sheep born? When did we give that offering? When did the rains begin last year? To answer this, they watch the moon. They carve the days. And slowly, they create months. Not 12 yet. Not neatly aligned? But they are getting there. And all of this, without ever intending to invent a calendar. It's a quiet revolution. No speeches. No declarations. Just one day, a scribe starts adding a line to his goat tallies, second moon after the flood. Third night of the barley harvest. And another scribe copies him. And a priest. And a merchant. And before long, they are all living by the moon. A calendar is forming. Softly. Organically. Wrapped in clay and silence. And the world of the Sumerians is changing. Close your eyes again. Let yourself sink just a little deeper. You're still in Sumer, in that land between two rivers, where life is muddy, rhythmic, and wonderfully slow. It is night again. The moon is rising over the palm groves. Soft silver light spills across mud brick rooftops, and somewhere, a dog barks once. Then curls up to sleep. The Sumerians are watching the sky. Still curious. Still quietly obsessed with the moon. Not for romance. Not even for storytelling. But for bookkeeping. Yes. The moon is becoming a favorite of temple scribes and grain collectors alike. Because the moon is honest. It always returns. It always shifts the same way. A perfect timekeeper. In a temple courtyard, beneath an open sky, a young apprentice kneels beside a tray of soft clay tablets. His job tonight is simple, but sacred, to press one tiny wedge mark into the clay. For each day that passes. 29 marks. Then a space. Then 29 more. And again. And again. The marks are neat. Uniform. They are not poetry. But they are order, and the gods love order. This apprentice doesn't know it, but his little tray of marks will one day help shape the lunar calendars of Babylon, Persia, Greece, and Rome. Now imagine you are standing in the main marketplace of one of the great cities of ancient Sumer. Merchants shout gently from shaded stalls. Children dart through the legs of camels. And a priest in a high headdress walks calmly through it all, clutching a long list. That list. It's a schedule of offerings. Each one tied to a moon cycle. On the third night of the seventh moon, on the new moon following the barley harvest, 5 days after the full moon of the fish festival. The Sumerians didn't number their months with January or July. Instead, they named them after what was happening. The month of barley cutting. The month of sheep shearing. The month of heat. Even the month where there was not much going on. We made that one up. But it wouldn't be surprising. Their calendar was alive. It breathed with the seasons. It moved with the work of their hands. Now, you might be wondering, if their months followed the moon, about 29.5 days each, then how many months made a year? 12. Yes. Usually. But not always. Because there was a problem. A tiny problem with very large consequences. The moon year, 12 lunar months, is only 354 days long. But the solar year, the real cycle of seasons, is 365 days. That's an 11-day gap. And over time, that gap grows. So if you're only using the moon, then pretty soon your spring festival will land in winter. And your barley month will happen when the fields are still mud. Oops. The Sumerians noticed this. But they didn't panic. They simply invented a gentle workaround. Every few years, a high priest or temple official would decide, this year, let's add an extra month. A 13th month. Tucked in like a spare sock. They didn't make a big fuss about it. They just announced it to those who needed to know. The scribes would not. The merchants would shrug. And the goat herders? Well, the goats didn't care either way. This quiet adjustment became a tradition. An early form of intercalation, the fancy word for adding days to fix a calendar. It wasn't perfect. But it worked. And that is how the Sumerians created one of the first flexible calendars. Not rigid. Not digital. But fluid. Human. Moon-watched and mud-marked. Let's walk into a temple now. Not a grand palace, but a quiet, cool sanctuary built from sun-dried bricks. In the center, a table. On the table, dozens of clay tablets, stacked in neat rows. Each tablet is a record. Some list livestock. Some list borrowed grain. Some list which day of which moon which person gave what to which god. It's oddly peaceful. There is no clock ticking. No rush. Time here flows in cycles. Waxing and waning. Mark by mark. The scribe dips his stylus into water, wipes his brow, and presses one more wedge into clay. Another day? Accounted for. There's something soothing in this rhythm, isn't there? A society. Slowly discovering time. Not by rushing forward. But by watching what returns. The moon. The floodwaters. The stars. The barley harvest. The bleat of newborn lambs in spring. They didn't measure time to hurry. They measured time to understand. To know when to plant. When to rest. When to offer thanks to the gods. Now. Imagine lying on the edge of a field outside the city walls. The night air is warm. You smell damp soil. You hear the creak of reeds swaying in the breeze. Above you, the moon glows, perfectly round. Tomorrow, it will shrink. But tonight, it's full. And everyone in the city knows what that means, a festival. Candles? Bread? Dancing? Maybe even music. But for now, just rest. The calendar will continue without you. The moon will mark the days. The scribes will press their wedges. And time, in Sumer, will keep flowing gently on. Settle in again. Take a deep breath. Let it out slowly. We're still in Sumer, still wandering the winding paths between mud brick homes, listening to the soft gossip of palm trees, and the splash of oars on canal waters. But tonight, something is different. There's a scent of sweet incense in the air. The streets are cleaner than usual. Even the goats seem suspiciously quiet. It's a festival night. A night when the Sumerians turn their eyes from clay and ledgers, and look instead toward the heavens. To their gods. Their many, many gods. And each of those gods had their own time on the calendar. The Sumerian gods were not distant or vague. They were specific, and often surprisingly busy. They oversaw grain, rivers, birth, war, dreams, and the occasional thunderstorm. They had temples. They had feasts. And they had assigned days. Each month held not only market days and tax days, but also holy days. Festivals of love, of storm, of renewal. And some, for reasons even the Sumerians weren't entirely sure of. But they celebrated anyway. Picture this, the city of Nippur, sacred center of the wind god Enlil. The sun is rising behind the ziggurat, the giant stepped pyramid at the heart of the city. Its bricks glow golden in the early light. Down below, a slow procession begins. Priests in embroidered robes. Women carrying baskets of fruit and cakes. Children scattering petals. Musicians tapping soft rhythms on goatskin drums. They're celebrating the festival of the first fruits, a moment to thank Enlil for the harvest and ensure his continued favor. But these aren't wild, raucous celebrations. They're measured, elegant, deeply tied to rhythm, the rhythm of the moon. Because the timing of each festival was deliberate. Tied to a lunar phase. A full moon for fertility. A new moon for purification. A half moon for balance and justice. So when the scribes counted days, they weren't just noting the passage of time. They were preparing for joy. Now let's pause a moment. You're sitting in a shaded courtyard near the temple. It's early evening. The air smells of honey cakes and fresh dates. You sip cool barley water. Somewhere nearby, a soft chant drifts through the air like a lullaby. The moon is rising, a thin crescent tonight. And the priest announces, 3 days to Inanna's night. Inanna, the goddess of love, war, beauty, and chaos. She is celebrated each month. But her major festival, the descent to the underworld, is a full ritual. Priests recite poems older than memory. Dancers wear golden masks. And in hidden chambers, sacred dramas are whispered into the dark. All on time. All according to the calendar. But let's be honest. Sometimes the calendar got messy. Welcome back, wanderer. You've followed the moon this far. From market days to temple festivals. From goat-counting scribes to full moon feasts. And yet, the deeper you go into Sumerian time, the stranger things begin to feel. Because tonight, we step into a softer, more peculiar corner of history. Not about gods. Not even about the moon. But about the hours in your day. And how they didn't always behave themselves. Yes. Timekeeping gets weird. Let's begin at dawn. The sun is rising over the mud brick skyline of a Sumerian city. Long shadows stretch across the courtyards. The scent of warm bread wafts from ovens. Roosters shout with mild enthusiasm. It is morning, yes. But how long will that morning last? In Sumer? That depends entirely on the season. You see, they didn't divide day and night into fixed hours like we do now. Instead, they split the day into 12 sunlight hours and the night into 12 darkness hours. So in summer, when the days are long and hot, each hour might be 75 minutes. In winter, the hours shrink down to barely 45. That means an hour wasn't really an hour. It was a suggestion, a sun-guided feeling, a flexible slice of time that changed with the seasons. And somehow, that worked. Imagine this, you're a farmer just outside the city. Your job is to irrigate your field and keep track of watering schedules. You don't have a wristwatch? You don't even have a sundial yet. So how do you know when it's the 5th hour of daylight? Simple, you glance at the shadow of a reed pole stuck in the ground. If the shadow is long and slanted, it's early. If it's short and standing upright, it's noonish. If it's long again and facing the other way, well, time to go home. It sounds imprecise. And it was. But it was also natural, rooted in the way time feels, not the way numbers measure. Let's now visit a temple not during a festival, but in the quiet of mid-afternoon. Inside, a priest kneels beside a large ceramic bowl. In the center is a small hole. From the hole, water drips. Very slowly. This is a clepsydra, a water clock. One of the earliest ever made. The Sumerians used them to keep time when the sun was hidden. Each drip represented a fixed interval. Once the bowl filled to a certain level, it marked the passing of an hour. But just like their sunlight hours, this wasn't exact. In winter, the water was thicker, colder, it flowed slower. In summer, it rushed through. Even time by water was alive. It breathed with the seasons. Now let's go smaller. Not an hour, but a moment. The Sumerians had a word, Jibil. It referred to the first visible flicker of dawn on the eastern horizon. Not sunrise, just the whisper before. Another word, Edin. It meant the pause in the wind just before sunset. They had words for moments we barely notice now. Moments not of minutes or seconds, but of sensation. A change in the air. The glint of light on water. The stillness before the city stirs. They didn't divide time into pieces. They flowed with it. Think of how we live now, 5-minute timers. 30-minute meetings. Alarms. Stopwatches. The Sumerians would find all that a bit strange. Because to them, a day wasn't chopped into chunks. It was shaped by what needed to happen. You rise when the light returns. You rest when it fades. You work until the barley is threshed, not until your shift ends. It wasn't inefficient. It was deeply human. And still, they were trying to make sense of time, trying to mold it. They began carving the day into sections. Not quite hours yet, but watches. Morning, midday, late afternoon, early night, deep night, and the mysterious time before dawn. Each watch had its own role, its own energy. Priests would chant at midnight. Lamps would be trimmed at twilight. Markets would open during the second watch of light. Time wasn't numbers. It was events. And if no event happened, well, that hour might not matter at all. Let's wander now to the home of a craftsman. A man who makes fine combs from bone and ivory. He sits near a window, chiseling tiny grooves with infinite patience. He doesn't have a clock. But he knows that by the time the sun hits the third brick on the opposite wall, his apprentice should bring him lunch. Later, the sun will fall behind the neighbor's palm tree. That's when his wife begins boiling lentils. And when the orange sky fades to gray, his tools go away. No alarm needed. No notification. Just the subtle theater of light and shadow, telling time like a gentle whisper. Sometimes, timekeeping did fail them. Sometimes the moon was early. Sometimes the water clock clogged. Sometimes a storm threw off the daily rhythm completely. And when that happened, they shrugged. They adjusted. They gave it a name, Nam-sag. It meant uncertain day. It was okay not to know. Okay to be unsure. Even time had its off days. That's something to remember, isn't it? That time, once upon a moment, was not a cage. Not a race. Not a weight on your shoulders. It was a cycle. A breeze. A pattern in the reeds. You didn't chase time? You listened to it. Felt it in the dust underfoot. In the shifting shadows. In the silent moon. And when it slipped out of reach, you simply waited. Because another hour, another day, another moon would come again. As we close tonight's passage through Sumerian hours, imagine yourself lying beneath a woven canopy, the sky open above you, stars blinking softly through the heat haze. A clay lamp flickers beside your bed. Its flame dances as if it, too, is counting time. But not quickly. Not urgently. Just being. The reed shadows on your wall are long now. Your eyes are heavier. And the hours ahead. They are yours. Not to track. Not to conquer. But simply to pass through. Like a quiet river. Like the ancient water clocks. Drip by peaceful drip.